Ladies and gentlemen, Caravan fans, welcome to the first episode of our new podcast, Shoulder to Shoulder. I am Matt Malloy, the voice of the Caravan, here with my good friend and the best color commentator in the Catholic League, Christos. Buddy, how you doing?
That was very generous of you, Matt. Very generous. I felt that one. I'm doing great, Matt. You know, probably the hottest day we've had all summer, actually.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was about 104 when I checked the weather and when I was on the third floor, and I felt like I was just suffocating there. But other than that, pretty good day, Matt. Good day for a podcast.
Pretty good day. You know, usually when football comes around, all I can think of is leaves falling on the ground, and I think it's pretty interesting that this game, it's going to be hot on Thursday, right? So let's just jump in it. By the way, folks, Shoulder to Shoulder is a podcast. We're aiming it to be kind of a weekly sports update, you know. We're just going to go through. Right now we're in the fall season, so the sports we're going to talk about are football, soccer, cross country, and golf. And then, you know, once Thanksgiving rolls around and trimester 2 comes around, that also comes with the winter season, so we'll jump into those sports. But right now we're going to start off with football. Christos, you and I, we've been watching film like crazy, dude, you know, because I feel like if we were to play Brother Rice or St. Rita, we don't have to watch that much film maybe. We know what their plays are going to be like. We know their head coach. We know what they're coming from. But this first team that we're playing, we have never seen before. We know absolutely nothing about them. You know, when we first heard we were playing them, we tried to gather information. We know they are a boarding school from Princeton, New Jersey. I won't say the exact number for their tuition, but quite a lot. I'll say. You know, they're pretty expensive school to go to, which also means their football program is pretty good too. So, Christos, what do you got to say about the Hun School of Princeton, also known as the Hun Academy Raiders?
Yeah, Matt, obviously very well-prepared team. This is the type of school that, you know, it's not quite IMG level, but it's a school where kids go to, often transfer into to get college offers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think pretty much everywhere we looked on the roster, there was a kid committed somewhere. There's a kid going to Stanford, kids going to UConn, Wake Forest, anywhere East Coast in particular. But there is their line is probably their strongest part of their team, especially their offensive line, their size. I mean, we were looking at the roster. It's like everyone's, 6'6", 350 or whatever.
Yeah, I know they got a couple 6'8" and 300s in there. So
exactly. So it'll definitely be the biggest team we'll be seeing this year, outside of maybe Loyola.
Yeah,
but
Loyola's got some big kids.
They do. Yeah, Loyola's got some crazy tight ends every year.
Always do. Yeah, but you know, you're correct. Like, you know, all the film we watch, we're like, man, these kids are big. Looking at their defensive line, it's going to be really tough to block them. And something came up this week. Obviously, I'm not going to say for sure, but we do know there has been some problems with number 71 Zion Elliott's eligibility to play on the field Thursday night and maybe even further on into the season. So there's been a lot of talks about it. I know you have some news. So
yeah, so since Zion is a transfer student, he's got to wait, I think it's a full 30 days until he can play his first game. He's good to practice and all that, but that was kind of like the same thing that happened with basketball player Noah Mister last year. He had to wait his 30 days, and then by, I think it was like the first week of December, he was good to roll. But, yeah, like that. Here's what I will say, though, Matt. After watching Brown and White, this might be the biggest Caravan team I've seen in a long time. I mean, when you look at especially the offensive and defensive line, you know, you got guys like Braden and Joey Quinn on the defensive line, as well as Landon. I can't think of his name, but he's a wrestler as well. He's a junior. Mm-hmm. Then offensive line, you got Lamont Miller. You got guys like Tommy LaBelle, who's stepping up now, but and Tommy's probably the smallest kid out there, and he's a pretty strong kid, you know.
Yeah. So first off, about size, I think the only position on the field we're kind of, I guess, struggling behind in is our receiving core. Think of the receiving room last year. The room this year is in a completely different building. That's how different it is, right? You know, it looks completely different. New coach, new receivers coach. A couple of guys have stayed, like Jake Cozy is the first guy that comes to mind. But
Alan McCoy.
Alan McCoy going to be a big target this year. But back to Tommy LaBelle. So with Zion out now for those 30 days, it comes down to a couple of guys such as Vince Cronin, who I believe there's been some talks of captaincy. I believe he was voted number 55, yet voted to be a captain. So it's either going to be him or Tommy LaBelle. Looks to be Tommy. We're not going to say anything for sure, though. We still have 2 days until kickoff, so a whole lot of things can happen. It might not even be one of those two guys, but I think no matter what happens, the offensive line is going to stay strong this year, even if it is Tommy or Vince. While they may have not had a lot of experience starting, especially with quarterback Jack Elliott, I think they're going to roll right into it immediately this first game. They've been practicing with the Caravan for multiple years, right? 3 seasons so far. They know what they're doing. They're senior leaders on the field. They're going to do great. So I'm not so much worried there. What I am worried about is I'm going to tie it back to that receiving core.
Right.
Quentin Burrell is the tallest receiver we have. He's going to be at the X spot, of course. They call him Q. Junior. So a little lack of experience maybe, but he's got a little more than others, I guess you could say. And but another kid I want to highlight is Cooper Lehman, number 5. Transfer from Neuqua Valley. He was a huge target there, probably one of their best guys on offense. And, he played with boom football and overtime and all that like a lot of receivers do. So his experience with 7-on-7 leads me to believe that he's going to be a big help for Jack this year. Especially Elliott is losing guys like Darion Gilliam.
Dupree.
Dupree
was second in receiving yards by 100.
Yeah.
I think, which is crazy to think about, man.
Yeah, and by the way, just a tangent, but Dupree looks like he might get some time with Wisconsin football on the Badgers. Social media, their social media pages have been posting him a lot. It's awesome to see him get the attention he deserves. He was a big player in high school, a really humble guy too. He loved the brotherhood here at Carmel. I'm sure he's gonna love it there at Wisconsin. So, best of luck to him as college football is starting up right now. But this Thursday and Friday, high school football is opening up. There's going to be a lot of big games. And while Hun and Mount Carmel is going to be a huge one, there might even be a bigger one on Saturday between East St. Louis and Loyola. We're not going to get into it that much, but it's going to be a big game. And when I first heard that they were going to be playing this game down at Hancock Stadium at ISU, the first thing I thought about was that we did the same exact thing last year for Week 1 against East St. Louis. So it's nice to see some, comparisons between last year to this year, especially with, it's no doubt, the biggest regular season game on Mount Carmel's schedule is Loyola Academy Week 9 at Barta Dowling Stadium. The Ramblers have only played here at Mount Carmel 2 times since Barta Dowling opened and we started playing all of our home games here. We played them here years ago, right? It's been
2019, yeah.
Yeah, 2019 and 2021.
Right.
So it's been a while. COVID messed things up, and then deals were made, obviously. So for the past 2 years, we've headed up to Wilmette. Now this year they're going to head down here to Woodlawn.
Right, and both those games at Barta Dowling were within 3 points or less.
Yes.
I remember 2019 we won. Julian Patino with the game-winning field goal with about 20 seconds left. We won 17-14, I believe. And then 2 years ago, maybe 3 years now, our freshman year, we lost 21-19, I believe.
Correct. Yeah.
So both and even when we go to Loyola, it's the same thing, right? But very close games here at Barta Dowling against Loyola.
Yeah, but, Loyola, man, that's a while away. We've got a lot of powerful schools to come through. We are not playing a single public school this year. That's a little different. Last year we played Morgan Park here at home. They were meant to be kind of one of the better public school programs in the city, which they were, yeah. Jack Elliott threw multiple interceptions against them. But it was early on in the season. We still came out with a win. But it's going to be really interesting to see how our offense matches up against all private school defenses. I think that's the biggest thing in my mind is there's a lot of differences, I guess, when you reach up to that level. So, but right now they're just worried about Thursday. The heat is a really big factor. I know when you think of football, a 95-degree game, maybe it's not going to be that hot, but it's going to reach up into the 90s on Thursday. It definitely reached up into the 90s today, which affected their practice. They practiced earlier this morning instead of in the afternoon, gave the guys a chance to maybe get some rest this afternoon. So, I'm really excited for Thursday, and these guys are ready. They've been going June camp, July camp. They came here on August 12th was the first day after Dead Week. So, Now they just got to go out and prove themselves. Thursday is where that starts. Yeah. So now we're going to roll right on into soccer. They start their season today.
Yep.
They start their season off against Revis. I was talking to
Against Joliet West at Revis.
Yeah, Revis. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a tournament.
Mhm.
Yeah. So tournament. They're gonna start off with multiple games there. I was talking to Julian Velasquez earlier today. Kind of one of the senior leaders on the team. He's
Right.
been around there with Coach Godinez for a while, and he said that he just really wants to get out there and play. In the past couple of practices, they've been really trying to build team chemistry. We can actually see them, the JV squad out there getting ready right now. But varsity, they've had a couple of rough goes at it, I guess, in the past couple of weeks. Mainly just trying to figure it out, because these guys work so hard, and I think they don't get enough credit for it. Talking to them about their practices, so school ends around the first week of June, and I think 2 or 3 weeks later is when they start just practicing every single day up until the season starts. So they're conditioning, they're practicing shots and stuff like that, and I'm really excited to see Rodriguez in net for the second year in a row. He's following up Andres Kamp, who's now up in Whitewater. I'm really excited for this team, and if they can start off with a win today, that'd be great. But also, if they come away with a loss, they have a lot of time to get ready. They don't have their first conference matchup until they play St. Rita, I believe, or that's their first home conference matchup against St. Rita here. So that'll be the first big test for them. That's on September 12th. So not for a while, but it's still in the back of their minds. Yep.
Yeah, Matt. Just from talking to some of the guys like John Justick, like Julian, both Julians, in fact, this is going to be a very senior-heavy team. It's going to be pretty comparable to our team from 2 years ago with guys like Andres Kamp, with guys like Dominic Gadolinsky. And they made it all the way down to the super sectional, I believe. They lost 1-0. I remember being at that game. But that was a really good year, a really strong year for Caravan soccer.
Yeah.
And like you said, Matt, these guys don't get the credit they deserve. When you think about dominant soccer teams in the Chicagoland area in the last 10, 15 years, Caravan soccer is one of those teams. We made it to state in 2016, fell short in overtime. But the last, 10 years, I think we've won CCL like 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always in the conversation for a deep playoff run.
Yeah.
So these guys are good.
Yeah. Another big game that's always on that soccer schedule is whenever they play St. Lawrence. A lot of these guys come from Burbank or I guess the surrounding areas from there. So when they match up against Lawrence, these guys know each other, and I think it is a big decision for most kids that are very good at soccer and they're looking to play in high school right around 7th and 8th grade when they're in those years. A pretty big decision is, are they going to go to Lawrence or are they going to go somewhere else like Rice or Carmel and kind of make a trip, So I do know there's a couple of kids that live pretty much right near St. Lawrence that come here to Carmel and play soccer. And, that's always a really big talking point for people is the commute to school every day. And I just love the fact that this rivalry didn't come from hate, but it did come from just these guys knowing each other so well. And, it's a very friendly rivalry, I guess I'll say, but it's always a good one to watch, man. These guys put on a great show every year. They play Lawrence October 1st. At 6 p.m. It's going to be at Lawrence, so we're not going to be able to stream that one, but I know I'm definitely going to be interested in going to that game for sure.
Definitely, Matt. Yeah, I agree.
So we're going to move on to our third sport of the fall season now. We're going to talk a little bit about cross country. Christos, you just practiced up here on the track because it is way too hot to be running down by the lake. So to be honest, I'm going to let you take the reins for this one. You obviously know a little more than I do and have the insight. So what can fans expect for this year's cross-country team?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Matt, this is the biggest team we've had since I've been here. We have a ton of freshmen this year, which is great. We've just grown every year since 3 years ago. But guys to look out for, TJ Kolke, Nolan, Esquivel, myself, Leonard Siegel's a good name, Jason Isaiah. So we got a lot of guys that have been running track that have joined cross country, and we're getting a lot of that speed going, especially among the freshmen, which is great to see. And I believe our first meet is a week from this Saturday. It's usually at Lewis University.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt, cross country is one of those sports that's just so hard to, it's different from any other sport, right? It's hard to recruit specifically for cross country because it's
Right.
like there's usually not a powerhouse unless you're out in the suburbs. And especially for the CCL, it's kind of like you just take athletes that are kind of, done with their primary sport and they need something to do to keep them in shape and whatnot, and you convert them into a runner. And
Right.
it works a lot, though, with a lot of these guys. I will say Marist is probably the most dominant in CCL. They
Gotcha.
often have guys, going downstate. But it'll be a good year.
Yeah.
It'll be, like I said, biggest team in the last 4 years. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, just coming from experience, I have a couple family members that are big runners, and they run cross country at the schools they go to. And then, of course, I've been to a couple of your meets, and man, some kids are just running like 5-minute miles. They're getting, I think it's 3.1 or 3.2 is.
It's usually 3 on the dot, but
3 on the
occasionally we'll
dot,
have a
okay.
5K, which is 3.12.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're running 3 miles in 15 minutes, right? That's insane. When we have the walkathon in April every year, we're running 5Ks or 10Ks. It's 10K, and kids are coming in after. Some kids are coming in after an hour. So that just goes to show how running, just in general, I think as a sport, the biggest thing has got to be like mental. You can run all you want, you can eat the best foods for you, get in the best shape, but when you're running, all you got is you and your brain out there. So cross country I'm excited for the season because in the past couple of years, you guys have always done great in the playoffs, but perhaps with a couple of senior leaders like you and Leonard, maybe you'll make a really big push in the CCL. So and perhaps beat Marist. So now it's time for our last sport we're going to talk about is golf. This is a really interesting one to me because Mount Carmel Golf went downstate for the first time last year, and they had a core that consisted of seniors Michael O'Keefe, Ryan Walsh, and Tim Christie. There were a couple other guys in there, but those three, they were the big three. If you went up to them and asked them, what do you do at Mount Carmel, one of their first answers, or the first answer would be, I'm on the golf team. So losing those three guys this year, moving on, Michael Schwarz seems to be the definitive number one guy. For those who don't know, golf kind of works like you have 6 guys that go out there for a tournament. You take the top 4 scores. So the whole idea is you kind of rank your guys 1 to 6, and you go out there and play them. So Michael Schwarz seems to be the number one guy. Then we have Tino Pilato, Ivan Milnicki, and Connor McClelland. Those seem to be the best 4, and then those other 2 spots have a little bit of a competition. Coach Minogue is going to have to make a decision from a tournament-to-tournament basis on who he wants to play there. But the team going downstate last year was very unexpected. I know we had those 3 guys with O'Keefe, Walsh, and Christie, but nobody really put up a standard, I guess, for them to go downstate and place 3rd, which was awesome. So they're coming off a high. They started hot last season. They're looking to stay hot this year. So you got anything to add about our golf team?
Yeah, no, Matt, like you said, we're friends with Michael Schwarz. I know he's been working. He's been golfing probably 365 days a year.
Yeah.
So I know he'll be prepared. I know Tino, for those of you who don't know, he was the guy that shot a hole-in-one last year, and he's just a junior. So a lot of younger guys for sure, which is good for the future. And like you said, still 2 spots open. Guys like Marty Wilmus and others will be competing for that. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out in the next few weeks.
Definitely, yeah. They had tryouts a couple weeks ago. They've been practicing, and I don't know for sure, but it has been said by guys like Coach Minogue where golf, you start the latest and you earn and you end the earliest, if that makes sense in a way. It's a very short season is what I'm getting at. And if you can play your best golf within that month maybe of when all the tournaments and matches are, it's going to be set up really nicely to do well in not only the CCL, but hopefully downstate too. So we want all of these 4 sports to do incredible this season. It's the first week of school, which means for a lot of these sports, it's their first match or event. So thank you for tuning in to Shoulder to Shoulder. It's been Christos and Matt here from Mount Carmel High School. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and have a great day, Chicago.
So long.